Good morning. We're excited that you're here. I hope that you've had a lot of fun. I know for me, I've learned a lot from a lot of you. This is one of the reasons that I like these conferences is that not only do we get to present what we have and some of the exciting stuff that we have going on in the future that's going to help your business run more profitably, but I've also learned a lot from you. So that's also useful for me. And my hope is that you've also learned a lot from us too as well. It's a collaboration. So we're excited for that. We know that we have a lot of things like AI coaches, we have analytics, we have AI assistants, but today we're going to show you a very powerful tool in the back end on how to configure some of those things so it makes sense. Otherwise, if we can't master this configuration for safety events, event detection, alerts, it's not going to make sense down the road. So we're going to be able to show you that here today. So I'm a senior sales engineer with Motive. I'm joined by Lee, who shares the same title. And our passion is to partner up with clients in the pre-sales process to be able to solve for big business problems, or small ones too, because we know that we have small business problems as well. One of the things that we're also advocates for your business as well. If there's a business problem that we can't solve for, we bring other people in, or we work with our product team to be able to get that on the roadmap. So that's one of the things that we do, many other things that we do. And then today we're joined by Tucker Miller, who's from Xylem Kendall. We'll be able to give him an opportunity to introduce himself during one of our sessions or later on. But we're excited to have you. So not only do you get to hear from us, but somebody from the real world who's been doing this and has implemented Motive for quite some time as well. This is how we're going to do it. We went through the introduction. We're going to do a demonstration. Before I go into the system, we're going to talk about 5 key use cases that we solve for. Of course, there's a lot more that we can solve for, but these are the common ones that we hear across multiple industries and multiple company sizes. And then we'll hear from Tucker. We'll go through a quick brief of what they do, how they've used Motive. We'll introduce him, and then we'll go through some key takeaways. At the end, we'll open it up for some Q&A. This first one is around efficiency. So coaching every driver takes a lot of time. Of course, we're a software company. We're supposed to be able to solve for that. But how do we do it differently than other competitors? How do we do it more effectively? I actually had a conversation with an over-the-road company this week. And they said, well, maybe I just want to focus on the key things that we struggle with. We want to focus on the critical and the high severity ones. And those, I want an actual coach to be able to call the driver and coach them automatically. Plus, being able to set up different things like in-cab alerts to coach them on the spot, because sometimes that's more effective. But we'll give you the tools to tailor it to your system, and we'll talk through a little bit of that. And not every driver needs the same alerts. I know that across multiple industries, you share a common problem, or you might share a common problem like, hey, we struggle with cell phone usage. But not every single driver is going to struggle with cell phone usage. Maybe I struggle with stop sign violations, and Lee struggle with something else. So we give you the flexibility to be able to account for those differences in drivers. We want to improve over time. So one of the things that is very powerful that's coming up is Motive Analytics. I'm very excited about that. It's going to give us a lot of data. What we're going to talk about today is how do we configure our system throughout the life cycle when we have Motive implemented to be able to account for the differences. So one of the things that I heard from one of the customers from the construction industry this week too is when we have a system, we struggle with this specific unsafe event when we start out. But when we get to the end of the system or 2 years after that, we might struggle with something different. So how do we tailor the system, our safety scores, the weights, to be able to account for those differences? Some of you have experienced this. Who hasn't had driver pushback in this room? Okay, one? Awesome. Maybe he's taking a picture. One, okay. So this is a common problem that we hear. Drivers push back when they feel watched. The common consensus that I've heard this week is that you don't have a lot of time to watch your drivers 100% of the time, which I'm guessing that's not your entire job completely. But we do have some tools that you can configure on the back end to be able to help your business with that. Then, of course, all of this is going to boil down into creating less video, having more automation like in-cab alerts, automatic coaching, AI coaches, training videos to reduce the amount of legal risk. Okay, so this is a training session as well. Okay, I was going to say if you have your laptop, but I don't see anybody with a laptop. But if you do want to have your laptop out, feel free to follow along. Otherwise, we can always go through this at a later time. So the most powerful button in our system here is our configuration button right here. I call this the little person with the gear. When you go into here, you're gonna be able to configure things like setting up your users, roles and permissions. It's not the time to be able to, not today at least, to talk through how do we set up different roles, permissions, so my correct driver managers have the right access to the correct videos, but we do have the ability to do that. What we're gonna focus on today is on your product section. You're gonna go under your safety portion. And the first one that we're gonna talk about is modifying different thresholds, customizing your in-cab alerts, which is at the top. So we worked with a company who's in the home services industry, and they had an issue starting out with cell phone usage. So they said, hey, we think we have a cell phone problem. Most likely we do, but we don't have a camera system to be able to tell us that. So what they did is they started collecting some data. And this happens a lot when you first start implementing the system. What we recommend is a quarter to 6 months of collecting data before you start turning on in-cab alerts. So in this case, what they did is they said, okay, what I wanna do is I wanna capture the events, I wanna collect data to be able to see if we really have a cell phone problem or if we have a distracted problem. So what they did for the first 6 months is they said, okay, we wanna capture cell phone events. And then we're gonna decide if we're gonna turn on in-cab alerts or if we're gonna customize the severity of the alerts or the severity of how quickly we capture that event. So in this case, what they did is they said, okay, we're going to capture those events. It's gonna be the most sensitive here. So they pick up their cell phone within 3 seconds, going over 5 miles per hour, it's gonna capture that event. It's not gonna do the in-cab alert. Over time, they did find that they had a cell phone usage problem. So in this case, what they did, they said, okay, we want an in-cab alert as well, so we can correct the problem as it's happening. Over time, what you'll have the ability to do, and what this company did as well, is they customize how quickly we're capturing that event. So what this is saying is, okay, we know that we have a cell phone problem, but we also want to give the drivers the ability to correct themselves. So in this case, what they're doing is, okay, we want to make the event capture less sensitive. And I'm over-exaggerating here. I'm going to make it all the way kind of to the middle. But what this is going to enable you to do is say, okay, you're going to pick up that cell phone. We're going to do the in-cab alert, but we're not going to capture the event because we trust that you're going to correct that specific issue. And then talking to, not every driver needs the same alerts. So we mentioned that not every driver is going to struggle with cell phone usage. What's rolling now and what's going to be available to all of our customers by the end of May is customization by the vehicle level. I was checking with our marketing person, but she did not see me. Yeah, so we're going to be rolling out customization at the vehicle level. So let's say that maybe Lee still struggles with cell phone usage, and maybe now I struggle with close following. So what I can do is I can say, okay, let's try to find Dan's vehicle. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and customize those specific alerts. So what I can do here is follow the same process at the vehicle level. I can customize that alert. So in this case, maybe I struggle with distracted driving. So what I can do is I can say, okay, maybe I want to make that less sensitive. I want to do the in-cab alert, and I also want to do the event capture. So one of the things that one of our clients from the private transportation industry did is they said, okay, we want to do a couple of things. We want to improve over time. So in our example where we struggle with cell phone usage, maybe we've been able to handle that and be able to mitigate that issue. And at some point what they did is they started struggling with distracted driving. So what this is saying is that we're going to give weights to specific safety events. So in this example, we're saying, okay, if you use a cell phone, you're going to have the biggest impact, whether it's positive or negative. But what you can do over time is you can say, okay, well, we don't really struggle with cell phone usage now. Our focus is going to be something like distracted driving. So maybe I want to go ahead and increase that. And then you can see here as the weights start changing, the impact of a specific event capture is going to change over time, and it's going to have that specific impact. Yeah, so not only did this private transportation company, were they able to reduce the amount of cell phone usage, they were also able to reduce the amount of distracted driving, which sometimes is correlated, right? You have your cell phone at the bottom of your car on your lap, you're looking down, you're not paying attention. So it all correlates, but they were able to improve over time as well. So many of you are in different journeys of your safety implementation for dash cams. We have some customers that are just collecting data. We have some customers that have incentive programs tied to their safety score. One of the things they can do within the Motive system is changing the performance ranges. So an example from one of the over-the-road customers is they said, okay, we want to create an incentive program for a specific safety score. And if you're in the specific score in the fare range, we're going to go ahead and focus our efforts in this set of drivers. Okay, so what they were able to do, they were able to modify their performance ranges. So in this case, they went from, okay, for our fare score, we're going to say it's between 50 and to 59, and if that driver falls within that specific range, that's going to be our focus. That's going to be where we implement some of our policies, our people policies. I'm sure you have some of those already. Anybody who's in the good range, maybe we just focus those on a monthly basis. So it really depends on your policy, the number of coaches that you have, the number of driver managers that you have as well. But what they did over time is they said, okay, anybody who falls in the excellent range, a 91 to 100, we're going to go ahead and give them a specific incentive. The best incentive that I heard of, and it's not a competition, is a construction company out of the Minneapolis area. And they were giving out ATVs on their yearly meeting for the top driver. So it's awesome. Not saying that you have to do that. You know your drivers, how they get motivated, what drives them. Different incentive programs will vary by company. That's why we have people like Jim and Gary that can work with you on kind of talking through what that looks like for you. Okay, so coaching. So one of the things that we're really excited about today, if you haven't attended the AI coach session with Nihar, I would suggest doing that. There's a lot of great stuff that's going to come out of that, but there's also a lot of things that we can learn from and implement in the Motive AI coach to be able to do some automatic coaching. Some of the things that you can do now, though, you can say, okay, I want the events to be marked as coachable. So in our example, we had a company, I'm trying to say this correctly, one of the companies in the site management industries, yeah, that's a good way to say it. What they did is they wanted the system to automatically send coaching events to the driver based on severity. So they said, okay, any critical event, we want to take a look at that. We want to get an email alert or a notification to go look at it, because most likely it's a near incident or it's a near collision. So we want to go ahead and look at that. Anything that's high, I want the system to mark it as coachable, send the event to the driver so they can do some self-coaching on the driver app. So this is what some of this is saying. When you start having drivers compete for safety scores or top scores, you'd want to show them their safety score in the driver app. So I can easily see, okay, number 1 for my group, but I'm also number 20 out of the entire company. If there's incentives tied to that, maybe I want to go ahead and improve so I can be at the top of my company. And then, of course, this gives you flexibility, too. If you're starting out with a new safety program, maybe you don't want to show this to drivers. So what you can do is you can say, okay, I don't want to show the safety score to the drivers. Maybe I don't want to show the safety events. It gives you that flexibility to say, okay, you want to do a soft rollout to the drivers. Maybe they just see their safety score. Or maybe they just see their events. That way you can customize how you roll out the Motive system. And then, of course, doing things like sending videos, training videos along those coachable events. So having media train them with specific things that they can do better, why that event specifically happened. And another thing you can do as well is you can have the drivers do some self-coaching. So if I get that event, maybe we really don't struggle with, let's pick one out of here, hard accelerations. Maybe that's something that you say, okay, you have the ability to self-coach on hard braking, hard acceleration, and hard cornering. But if you don't review that video with the next number of days, I want to move it back into my queue so I can review that with the driver.
How did you open the behavior?
How did I open the behavior? Go to,
What you just did.
Yep, go to collapse or go to customize here.
Is that new?
It's newish. Yeah, it rolled out within like the last 1 or 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yep. So I guess relatively new, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I have always historically had it off because, again, it was everything. And if someone has a cell phone violation, I don't want them to be able to self-coach. But now that we have the ability to pick and choose, it's much better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yep. Okay, so driver privacy or drivers getting the feeling that they're always being watched. When you go to your dash cam settings, you have a lot of flexibility either at the company level or down at the vehicle level to do different things like in-cab audio recording. Maybe a customer from over the road doesn't really care about what's happening in the audio or in the cab, but some of you do. Some of you want more context to see if they were talking to somebody else, if they were getting distracted, if it's too noisy. If you're from the people transportation industry, maybe you want this to get additional context from some of the riders. You also have additional customizations for when the camera is recording. So different things like only record when the engine is on, or turn off the recording when it's stationary or idling. So it gives you that flexibility to say, okay, now that the driver stopped, maybe they're taking their break, I want the camera to turn off. Plus also giving them the LED indicator that it's also off and not recording. So they get that feedback as well. And then of course you'll see here on the right hand side you have some gears. This means that you can go ahead and do that at the vehicle level. So a lot of these things you can do at the company level, but also customize it down at the vehicle level. Other things too, like live streaming. So it really depends on what industry you're part of. You may want to do live streaming, so seeing in real time what the driver's doing, or seeing in real time what's happening in the cab or in the vehicle. Okay, so we talked about several things that you can do now, like customizing your behavior detection and intelligence. So customizing when the event is captured, when the alert is triggered, customizing your weights of your safety scores to be able to improve over time. Other things like performance ranges, being able to tie that into workflows like who are the drivers that we have to coach first or address first. And if you have an incentive program, this is one of the metrics that you can tie into your incentive program as well. Other things like helping you be more efficient by automatically coaching specific events, videos, sending them training videos. We talk about doing specific events over here as well. So I'm glad that you gave us that feedback. Glad that it's useful. Other things too, like driver privacy. So how do we define what's recorded, when it's not being recorded, what types of alerts the driver is getting as well. So that's all the things that you can do right now. Nihar and Alex, they are doing a specific session after this one on AI Coach. Give them a lot of feedback. This is new for us. We're really excited about it. We know that's going to make a big difference. But we also understand that we have a lot of room to grow with this type of AI product. Another way that we're going to help you with driver privacy is being able to tag videos as confidential. So let's say it's a critical collision or something that you don't want everybody to have access to. Maybe I'll promote myself. I'm the VP of safety. Maybe I'm the only one with access to this, plus my CTO or anybody else has to have access to it. This one I'm really excited about. I was working with a heating and plumbing company out of Indiana. They have their own industrial park. I think it was pretty big. I can't even quantify it right now. But they had their main building, and at the corner of the main building, they had a stop sign that was like 10 to 15 feet away from the corner. So what they had to do is they had to roll past the stop sign. But of course, there was a tree on the corner too, so they had to roll past the tree, past the stop sign. And for them, it was very low risk. So what they wanted is the ability to ignore specific events within that geofence. So that's going to be able to help you mitigate some of the low risk and create less video in your system.
And where is that found at?
This is in Q3. Yeah, so this is one of the roadmap items that will be coming up. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to hear from Zalem Kendall with Tucker and Lee, and then we'll open it up to Q&A after that.
Perfect. We have Tucker here from Zalem Kendall, and the reason he's here is because they've really been a model user, a power user of the Motive system, and really used it to drive that change in the organization. So before we get into the Q&A part, Tucker, if you could just kind of give them a quick brief on your role over there.
Yeah, so I'm the director of central office for Xylem Kendall, and so
my team, I have a team of 8 employees underneath me that we run all back office operation. Anything from the motive, to our own in-house softwares to, the flow of fuel cards, all that information will flow through our department. And so we tie a lot of that, the way we are built. A lot of what my department does will feed to other departments. So we feed to the HR, we feed to safety, but it all will come through how we build it out, how it all flows, and then we meet as departments and incentivize, how we can make things better throughout the company.
Yeah. So, like I said, you guys have really been effective in creating that culture of safety. And we kind of touched on it earlier, big topic, driver adoption, like we saw here, something that everyone struggles with to some degree. So you guys are growing rapidly, 11 recent acquisitions, more to come. So what that means is constant onboarding of new drivers. So I want you to, kind of tell us how you manage that process of getting the buy-in, especially with the dual-facing cameras, and with some of those companies being union drivers. How does that work with you all?
Yeah, and so, I myself, as well as, another team member from my team I'll take, and we actually go out to every acquisition, meet in person, and we're there for, anywhere from 4 to 6 days, depending on the size of the acquisition. And we really push, the buy-in of the system and, how the system is going to improve you as a driver, how we're, it's built to not stare at you all day. That's not the goal with it. The goal with it is, to keep you safe, to keep the company safe, to, immediately eliminate questions. And we show some videos to the acquisitions when we're bringing them on, and we show where, for instance, we had a head-on collision is one of our videos that we show. And immediately in the head-on collision, we get the alert triggers, we were able to provide it with the driver, the supervisor, the cop. Everybody immediately was, given the video, and it eliminated questions. So that's kind of the flow that we really push. And yes, you saying union, union is definitely a little bit harder. You have to kind of get their buy-in, and it's all about relationships. And so, that's kind of what I thrive to kind of push is I want you to trust me, and I want, you to feel safe behind that vehicle. I'm not there to, see you drive down the street and pick your nose. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
I want to keep you safe. I want to get you home to your family every night, and that's kind of the, the mom and pop feel that we push as a company.
Yeah, absolutely. So from the jump, going ahead and sitting everyone down and making sure that they understand the why. Hey, this isn't, we don't want to fire you. We don't want you to get in trouble over this. We want to get safer as a whole. And then giving them the data, the examples, and that understanding of this is why we're doing this. This is how that's going to impact you as an individual in a positive way. So as we know, coaching individual drivers, it takes time, it takes resources. So how have you guys gone about deciding what behaviors the drivers can self-coach with in-cab alerts? And how long do you guys give them to self-correct those behaviors before reaching that threshold of creating a safety event that's going to impact their score?
So, we actually believe in the self-coach a lot. That is kind of the goal of, our kind of world. We want that driver to be able to fix himself as a driver before he's going to get reprimanded from his boss or reprimanded from the office. And so we push for that driver to, hey, here's an alert. I'm not wearing my seatbelt. Let me put my seatbelt on. And so we set the system to where the first in-cab alert is going to trigger. Back office doesn't even know about it. It triggers to the driver. 30 seconds later is when the back office will hear about it. So he has about a minute before he actually is triggering an alert. And so we push that as a whole, for seatbelts, cell phone usage, more of the distracted driving. We've kind of gone a little bit away from using like the harsh turns, acceleration, hard braking. We use them, but those aren't the ones we drive on. The ones we drive on are distractive drivers. because that's when you have your incidents. Your incidents occur when somebody's looking at a cell phone, not paying attention, staring out in left field, whatever the situations are, and that's kind of what we drive, for them. Hey, put your seatbelt on, because if you're safe and you get in an accident, I know at least you had your seatbelt on, you weren't on a cell phone, something like that, immediately, again, is eliminated. I have the video that shows this collision. I know you're safe because you had your seatbelt on, you weren't texting, and so that's kind of what we really drive, is self-coaching those distracted driving features.
Yeah. And setting those alerts before the event capture, it kind of helps on two fronts. On the back end, reduces that workload so that you're not having as many events that you're needing to go through, review, and coach them on. And then, on the driver's side, it helps with that buy-in because they understand, hey, I'm getting that nudge to correct the behavior without it immediately impacting my score and alerting my manager and all of that. So, like I'm sure a lot of fleets in here, you guys operate different locations, different divisions, different vehicle types. So how do you go about customizing your safety thresholds and your in-cab alerts for those different vehicle types or drivers?
Yeah, and so he was talking how you can customize it to the driver. We don't really go down to that mentality. Our mentality is more, I don't want any vehicle based off of weight. So we do it based off of weight. We do light duty, mid-size, and heavy. And it's based off of how, if you get in a pickup truck, it's not going to be as strict as you in a bucket truck. And so, we push that. That's more of the mentality we have, because if I was to go to a driver and say, hey, he's never using a cell phone, and I take it away, that's when the individual is going to start using a cell phone. And so we want to make it, because for us, I want every employee that gets in a vehicle to know that you're not using your cell phone. Like that's the goal with it. I don't want you to feel comfortable about getting in a truck because you haven't used it for the last 2 months. Now all of a sudden I've taken it off. We push it to kind of, hey, this is a company policy, like no cell phones. And because, what we found is when you have comfort, when you have somebody comfortable in any job they're doing, climbing a tree, whatever the situation is, when they get comfortable is when you start having incidents. Yeah. Because they don't have the safety telling them, hey, seatbelt. And so that's where we've really drove more off of weight of vehicle and push that mentality of, hey, get in the truck, put your seatbelt on, get off your cell phone. That's what we drive.
Yeah, I really like that point too. I think it kind of emphasizes that culture of safety overall of, it doesn't matter how tenured you are here. Anything can happen to anyone at any time, and safety is not an area where you need to, get more lax as you get more experience. And I think you're right. In anything you're doing, the more comfortable you get, if you're doing something dangerous, that's typically when something happens. And
with the way we push it to where you're kind of self-coaching as a driver, you'd be amazed that even at our manager level, how many managers come to you, come to the office and they're like, man, it's amazing to me how much I was on my cell phone. And so they see it themselves and they fix it themselves without anybody else even knowing about it. And so I can't tell you how many times that's happened where it's like, I didn't realize I was on my phone that much. Right. And you'll see them hey, well, we're going to connect the Bluetooth. We'll get a holder, a cell phone holder. And they fix it themselves. And so it kind of eliminates the GF. Our world's different, I'm sure, than some of y'all's, but it eliminates the supervisor, kind of barking at them. And so it kind of builds some relationships within the field, and the drivers start making it a competition where my driver scores this, and your driver scores this, and you'll start seeing inside of these crews where everybody wants to have the best driver score. And so it allows, like you said, it allows the back office and the safety department to kind of have less work and only would focus on the big problems. Yeah,
a couple things there. First of all, being able to get the drivers to buy in on the gamification of the score is something that, and Dan can attest to that, we find to be really effective because, whenever competition is involved, you kind of naturally get people that want to win, want to do
Correct.
better. And the other point that you made is that the managers have these in their vehicles as well. And I think, Dan, you probably see this also, that we see a lot of companies that want to roll this out, want to get that driver buy-in, but they're not going to commit to putting it in a supervisor or a manager or a VP's vehicle. And a lot of times what I see in the field is that during a trial process, we'll kind of ask them, hey, you should put it in there so you understand how the technology works. And they're some of the worst drivers. And they have the attitude of, well, I have to be on my phone. Well, I need to read emails. It's not as important for me. And A, that's not true, as you all know. And B, it kind of takes away from that buy-in of the overall culture of, hey, we're going to get safer as a company, not just we need you as a driver to get safer.
Yeah, so when we first implemented Motive, we actually put it in supervisor, managers, VPs, my own personal vehicle. I mean, all the back office and the supervisors and managers were the first to have it. And then we pushed it down. And the reason we did that is we wanted, like you said, the buy-in from the field. Well, as soon as that supervisor was like, hey, I've had it in my truck for 2 months.
Right.
It's made me a better driver. As soon as that buy-in happens, you start seeing it just easily start, going down. And it's, again, with the acquisitions, it's always a little bit harder because you're coming from companies that either never had cameras in the trucks at all, and now we're putting a camera facing the road and a camera facing them. And then unions, again, is even a harder part to that. But it's all about the buy-in because you just have to sell it to them that, I want you to go home to your family.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stare at you all day. That's not the goal with it. And so, the videos, I think, for us is a big driving factor when I'm immediately able to show them, watch this video, and I immediately eliminate any questions.
Yep, absolutely. So last question here. We've gone through some of the roadmap. So as you guys look ahead to the future changes within Motive, future changes within your business, how are you guys planning to further implement the Motive system to continue to drive safety?
Yeah, so the AI side of it, where the avatar and that side of it is going to be really big for us because we already kind of implement avatars in our safety programs. So having it to where it's right there in the device and they're seeing our safety VP, our owners, right there on the phone, you get a little bit more buy-in from them. And we push, I kind of want to add this to it. We push, it's not, I don't want our safety guys, I don't want our GFs, I don't want our managers going out and my conversation with you is only bad. You got to drive positive feedback because the positive stuff is going to make it to where that individual wants to better himself. And so that is a big thing that we push at Xylem Kendall is we push our safety guys, our GFs. Yes, it's incentivized at the GF level and tiers up, but it's all about being positive because if you're going to go out to these guys and you're going to attack them all the time about not wearing the seatbelts, this and that, they're never going to buy in. You're never going to get the buy-in. And so we push and we push and we push like, hey, you did a great job today. You weren't on your cell phone, but I did see you didn't have your seatbelt on. And so we kind of push it in a different manner. And I will say our VP of safety is heavy about positive feedback because that is the only way of getting buy-in.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the only way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we see being effective is that approach of kind of sandwiching a negative in between positives so that they don't feel like they're just getting lectured.
And that's where I think the avatars are going to really help because it's not, you're making the video and the video is based off of, the individual. The individual doesn't know the feeling that he has that day. He might be having a bad day,
right.
But you're not going to get that feeling. You're just going to get the same video.
Right.
And so it's going to, it's going to be a little different than getting, a phone call and getting yelled at.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of moving on here, just kind of a recap, key takeaways from Dan's presentation. I think he had one more. Yeah, perfect. So set the in-cab alerts so drivers can self-correct before the video is captured. Like we said, that helps managing data on the back end, reducing that workload while still driving that change in driver behavior, and then also getting that buy-in because they understand that they have some wiggle room and an opportunity to correct before it's going to impact their score. Enable the self-coaching for specific behaviors in the driver app. Really understanding what an individual is having issues with and coaching them on those things. Customize your safety score to prioritize the behaviors that matter the most. So that's all about getting that data from Motive, getting that feedback, understanding, hey, as an individual fleet, what do we have issues with and what do we really need to focus on reducing? Personalizing the settings for specific vehicles, like Tucker was saying, different vehicle types, different locations, different functions have different requirements, need to be driven differently, have different risk factors that need to be addressed there. And then turning on the driver privacy mode to alleviate privacy concerns. So we do have that capability if it's something where, hey, we've even seen it where that'll be kind of a permission-based thing where if your score is above this, then maybe you don't have the in-cab camera on, things like that. So always have that option. And then the last thing there, that QR code will take you to our blog, which is going to give a recap of what we've covered here today. So I think we have 5 minutes for some Q&A here before we take off. So feel free if anyone has any questions here.
Yep, over here.
Remind me again, when does the AI coaching feature come? When does the AI feature come full live as far as coaching is concerned? When is that?
I think we're targeting Q3. Is that right?
Yeah, it's beta with some customers right now.
Yep.
And then we'll be rolling that out for the year as we get improved. And then we'll start off with a few of our avatars, and then later in the year, you'll be able to start adding your own or customizing the message.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Alex.
Could you just repeat what you said?
Yeah, so there's a beta version right now of AI Coach. There's some customers trialing it so we can gather more data and make it more effective before we roll it out. But by Q3, we should have it available to all customers. And then, of course, we're going to do iterations to it after that.
Yeah, so if anyone's interested in joining that closed beta, let me know if there's a sign-up form and we can get you guys early test access.
Yeah, if you're interested, I'll just repeat it. If you're interested in joining the closed beta, do they just send you an email or how do they do it?
Yeah, just talk to me.
Yeah, just come talk to. Yep. Yeah, come talk to Ling if you have any questions, or if you want to join that beta. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way for us to see the videos that they see?
So your question is it possible for them to see a video that they see?
Videos
Yes,
for
absolutely.
us. Where would we find that?
We can provide you with a copy of it. I don't know if we have it in the help center. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if we'll push it to the help center. I'll ask.
Do you have a dash cam in your vehicle?
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, I can see those videos.
Okay.
Training videos.
Yeah.
Right.
for the
Okay. Okay.
yes, sir.
I had 2 questions. One, the driver self-coaching, like I love what y'all have done on the identifying of behavior. Have y'all thought at all about maybe having a separate or a secondary tier of saying based on driver score? Because like for us internally, like we're a trial customer right now, our current system right now, we do it based on events, like policy violation type stuff. They can't self-coach.
Yeah.
But it's also at the time of the event, what was their driver score? Because if it's below a certain threshold, I don't care how minor it is, they're coming in because there's a bigger problem going on. If y'all aren't doing that, maybe a feedback thing.
Yeah, no, that's great feedback. We've heard that a couple times as well. It's something that we're thinking about. We just don't know where it's going to live. I think we're calling it escalation. So based on driver score, based on the number of times that you've coached them on that specific event. I'm saying it should live in AI Coach because we can do that customization, but Nikar might have a different idea. But it is something that we're thinking about.
Yeah, and I mean, just, or a way for the back office side to at least be able to see and say, oh, wait, I don't want that self-coached. I want to like retract that. Anyways.
Yep.
My other question was on like the driver coaching as far as like the video coaching aspects on an event, where does that, like, where's that data live after the fact? Like, when that driver gets in an accident and I have to provide training records, is that exportable, like from a training record perspective that says, hey, he had these events, this is the training he received real time in the cab with that?
Yep, all that is reportable.
Okay.
So the number of events, the events that they were coached on, who coached it, and then you also have SLA for coaches too. I would also take a look at Motive Analytics if you want to build more reports to get that visibility. I think that would be a great tool to explore that in.
Thank you.
Actually, just to piggyback off of that, we had one of the customers that I'm working with right now, or client that I'm working with right now. That's a great idea. I don't know where it's going to live. I just think it's great because you mentioned that. They want to do scrubbing the text of the coaching session to be able to do AI analytics and to be able to recommend to the coach.
Yeah.
Like, how do you improve on coaching? So, yeah, I like that. We have time for one more question. Yes?
So you've shown a lot of settings for a specific vehicle, how to personalize.
Yeah.
Do you have like a group settings if we have different application instead of going in every vehicle, like to do it for specific groups?
Right, so you're asking about group level settings, right? We don't right now, but that is coming very soon. I'd have to take a look at the roadmap to see when that's slated for, unless you know.
Later this year, like in
Okay.
H2.
Yeah.
And then the vehicle level customization should be available to all by mid-May.
Yep. So group level settings by the end of the year, probably Q4. Individual vehicle level settings is rolling out, available to everybody by the end of May. Okay, well, we appreciate your time. I hope you had a great meeting, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Perfect.